Now, I understand your standpoint, right? You don't want to take any risk, but
Smaller
when it
risk.
comes to real estate, there's going to be risk when it comes to any type of investment.
When should a newbie come to you, and what are some of the challenges that you think a newcomer in this space is going to face?
They just don't have the experience. So the way that we determine use some things as collateral, if you own your personal home, or if there's other assets that you're willing to attribute to as collateral, or you can partner with someone else. What it means to be wealthy is just the amount of assets that you own.
Do you want to take ownership of your financial future? Have the freedom to do what you want, when you want, and with whom you want? Welcome to The Top, the Take Ownership Podcast, the ultimate destination for Black people who want to learn how to build wealth through multifamily investing. We believe that multifamily investing is one of the most powerful wealth-building tools available to our community. Through our podcast, we demystify the world of real estate investing and show you how to use multifamily properties to create long-term passive income streams and build equity. Each episode features expert guests, real-world case studies, and practical tips tailored to Black investors. Whether you're just starting out in real estate investing or you're a seasoned pro, you'll find valuable insights and actionable advice that can help you achieve your financial goals. Join us on the Take Ownership Podcast and start taking ownership of your financial future today.
All right, fam. Welcome back to another exciting episode. This one is going to be a fire episode. This is highly anticipated for anyone who's doing commercial real estate. There comes that point where you got to buy, and where's the money, right? So we got the money person here today. So today is an exciting episode. What's going on, Jerome?
Hey, what's up, DB, man? We good, man. How about you?
Same old, man. I actually got a quick story to tell. So I was looking at this this unit. It was I think it's 26. So it's a little bit on the smaller side, right?
Mm-hmm.
Up out in DC. Bro sent it to me. I was kind of going late on and doing my underwriting, but I did my underwriting. It initially seemed like it was decent. So, once it's decent, I start escalating a little bit, right? Start saying, all right, what's the worst? What's the worst, right? So, start tacking on, start being more conservative. Problem with this one is I didn't have everything, right? He didn't have the T12. So I'm kind of working on like old school P&L, which isn't ideal, but whatever, right? And then it only goes up to like December. we're at July right now. So I don't want those numbers. I want new numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm reaching out. I'm trying to get new numbers. He's like, all right, I'm gonna get you the T12. Rent roll has holes in it. I'm trying to plug the holes, but again, the numbers look really nice, but I can't go for it. I need good numbers before I can move forward. And of course, I hit him up today. I'm like, what's going on with the T12? He's like, oh, you know what? That thing went under LOI.
Oh, man.
Yeah, man. It's one though. So I don't know if there's a lesson in that. Maybe the lesson is just go with the LOI and maybe put in some good language, but anyway, I mean, it is what it is, right?
That's a tough one. When to be aggressive, but I guess you still want to be cognizant of your numbers. So that's
absolutely. Yeah.
I just want to quickly shout out.
What's up?
I had a good conversation with Capital Impact Partners.
Okay.
We was emailing Sydney Freeman. So these just individuals that's just trying to invest in the disinvested, providing capital for small businesses in different regions in America. So I had a good conversation with them, just some things I need to do to get in line. So had a pretty productive day today. Can't complain. So I just
I
want to
like
shout
that.
them out real quick.
Absolutely. I like that. All right, listen, let's not keep holding the money over,
Let's
right?
show
We
up.
want to get into the money early. So, Naseeka, I'm gonna have you just introduce yourself a little bit, tell the folks what who you are, what you do, and then we're gonna dig in. But I have a lot of questions for you. I know I'm gonna learn a lot. So if you just tuning in right now, put your thinking cap on because the money is here. So let's get into it.
All right. Well, thank you. My name is Naseeka Cox. I'm a commercial lending broker for U.S. business financing. I've been in the real estate sector for about 10 years, originally from Brooklyn, New York, but Houston is my home.
Brooklyn.
That's what's up. And we want to go all the way back, originally from Jamaica, West Indies, but grew up in Brooklyn. And yes, Houston has been my home now after some years in the Navy for about 13 years. So Houston has been my happy medium. Houston is a great place for real estate investing for business in general. So, I've planted my roots here and business has been good. Commercial real estate is where it's at. I've been in residential real estate for quite some time and I decided to make the transition more recently. And it's proven to be a really good decision, honestly. I love the business of commercial real estate, very male dominated. That's one of the reasons why I actually like it as well, because there is a space and opportunity for us ladies. And it's an opportunity to bring a different perspective, a different way of doing business to the industry. And there's still a lot of room for growth. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I love it so far.
Cool.
What's cool is I just noticed we had Jason on, and he's military, and Miss Cox Naseeka's on, she's military. Like, what is it? It's like a gang of people from military in commercial real estate. Like, is that what they training us now in the Army?
I mean, that wouldn't be a bad thing, right? That'd be a good thing.
No, definitely not a bad thing. I think it has to do with specific individuals, like specific veterans, right? Like when you join the military, you normally don't end up separating the same person you were when you enlisted, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of us, we have the same experience, especially I would say people of color, right? You kind of realize what the big okey doke is,
Right,
once you join, and it's just like, okay, well, hey, for me, it was a great decision. I was able to, get my college degree, especially, landing here in Texas. There's lots of incentives here for veterans in Texas. I would say Texas is a very patriotic state, right?
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
So,
Sure.
definitely no regrets. But then you realize, just like once you enter into the real estate space, right? Once you really start getting serious about building wealth and acquiring, financial stability, you realize like how business functions in our country, our government function, right? If you're paying attention. And I think it's just maybe a natural order of things for people to go into business for themselves, especially after serving.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Appreciate that.
Listen, Naseeka, before we jump into the nitty gritty, I gotta ask you. So, residential to commercial, like what was it? I know
Emotional, emotions, and residential was driving me crazy.
We had the same conversation on the first podcast, I think, and the same with Jason the other day. Commercial is the numbers. Do the numbers work?
Exactly.
Right? Doesn't matter what cousin around the corner sold his for. What kind?
Doesn't matter what color the walls are.
Color the walls are, exactly right. The numbers work. We're doing business. Yeah. So
exactly. Like I said, I've been in the real estate space for quite some time, but in 2020, especially, of course, COVID was the biggest disruptor in our society, but it affected business because, especially in residential real estate, I was in residential real estate at the time in management, and people's emotions became a lot more heightened, and then it becomes a domino effect.
So let's start jumping into the nitty gritty because I want to learn a lot, right? So I'm matter of fact, I can use this example. So I was looking at this unit, right? Numbers were looking pretty good for me, at least, anyway, right? But as usual, you know, I have to call you, right? Call someone, you know, figure out what, you know, what my rates are, because if I'm putting some numbers down, I want to make sure my numbers, meet my expectation, right? I don't want to underwrite with 5% if the market is only, giving out 7%, right? Because that's not going to work. That's a huge difference, especially when you're talking in the millions, right? So for you, when you evaluate multi-family real estate, what are like the key factors that you're looking for?
When I'm looking at a particular project or property, especially when it comes to multifamily, I'm considering the rent roll if that's available. If it's, if it's occupied, the occupancy rate and the rent roll. So that's the first thing that we look at. Like what's being made as far as monthly income on that particular property. And in most cases, there's going to be some reconstruction required, some renovation, some construction required in order to bring it up to, current market value. That's what a lot of investors decide to do. But if not, if they just want to, purchase it and hold it, then, we look at what the overall goals are for that particular investment. We do have some investors that purchase and flip. They purchase, they renovate, and they flip right away. We already know that's going to be a short-term loan.
Okay.
Shorter term loans tend to be higher interest rate. That's anything from, a year to 2 years, 12 months to 24 months, right? The typical fix and flip type of project, right? And those are the only cases where we would consider a residential property, honestly, is if it's going to be flipped, right? If it's going to be a shorter term project. We definitely look at the projection for the increased value, right?
Gotcha.
What's going to be 2 to 3 years from now, which is pretty easy because it's going to be similar to what the current market values are. Those are pretty easy to assess.
Okay.
And if the investor is experienced, then it's pretty much an easy deal because they expect the interest rates to be a little higher, but they're still going to make money regardless.
Right.
That was going to be. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. Please interject if you have questions.
Well, I was going to be a question I had for like new investors, individuals. Like our goal is just to reach our culture and kind of demystify multifamily investing. So when should an investor, a newbie, come to you, and what are some of the challenges that you think a newcomer in this space is going to face?
Sure. I'll finish answering your question first, Derick. But if you're going to hold the property, I'm actually working on a project right now. It's a 72 unit multifamily, an older property that's valued at like $4 million, and he's going to put $1 million in it. So it's a $5 million deal. And he's going to hold it. So his goal is to hold it and stabilize it, right? So bring it up to market value because it is an older property, and then hold it. And his projected income should be, over about $700,000 per year after that, if it's fully occupied.
Okay.
It's fully occupied, which it currently already is, right? So the current, amount that for the units, I think it's 1, 2, maybe just a couple 3-bedroom units from 800 to 1,200. It's going to increase to about 1,400 to about 1,700. Those are very realistic numbers.
Okay. I mean, that makes the big difference, right? Because for me, let's say for instance, and I don't want to derail Jerome, I don't derail your question, but like if I'm looking at one of the things that I look for when I'm underwriting, if I look at a project and they say, okay, let's just say for instance 72 units, right? And they project it's going to do this, but it hasn't been proven out yet, right? That's always a little bit of a gamble. Now, of course, I can look at comps, but what I really, really love is if that individual has taken 2 of those units, renovated them, proved that that market supports it, Like that. I don't understand why everybody doesn't do that. Right? Like you bring the 72 units to me and you said 2 of these, we already proved it out that if you get this, you are going to get the 1,400 from the 1,000. Like that's for me, it's
Yeah,
just
I
such
don't
an
know.
easy sell.
Yeah, as a lender though, I don't know if that's a realistic strategy because the market value is really going to be determined on the property conditions, right? So even if 2 units be renovated and the rest aren't, then that still can affect the projected value, right?
Right.
Now, I understand your standpoint, right? You don't want to take any risk, but
Smaller
when it
risk.
comes to real estate, there's going to be risk when it comes to any type of investment. But real estate is probably going to be one of the more solid risks that you can take. There's a lot more risk when it comes to the shorter term projects, right? Like I'm talking about the flips. There's a lot more risk involved with that because you're not always guaranteed to make what you think you're going to make in a shorter term.
Hence the higher rate, I'm assuming, right?
Right. I'm sorry?
I said hence the higher rates, right?
Exactly, right? And anything can happen. Inclement weather, can affect how long, a project takes to complete. Anything can affect, your downline, I would say, or your what you're projected to make, right? But the longer term projects for sure tend to be a lot more lucrative and solid. Yeah. But that's just the real estate game.
Yeah.
Indeed. And now to answer Jerome, I'm sorry so much. What I see most often when it comes to newer investors is that they just don't have the experience. So the way that we properly determine like terms for a particular project when it comes to the business, right? Because these are commercial business loans, is how long you've been in business. So we'd like for you to be in business for at least 2 years, right? Also, how much cash flow that the business is accumulating every month, right? So sometimes there is no cash flow as a newer investor. For the most part, you don't have a lot of cash flow. So if you have a job, then we, consider you to be W-2 certified. Then we do take a look at your income, your credit score. Although it's a business loan, you do guarantee your own loans. So you tend to be your own guarantor. So your personal credit score will be taken into, account. So those things. Also, the down payment. So I would say that that's probably the biggest issue, the down payment. Usually it's 20% for newer investors. And if that's a multi-million-dollar deal, then that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So if you don't have that cash or assets, we can definitely use some things as collateral if you, own your personal home or, if there's other assets that you're willing to attribute to as collateral, or you can partner with someone else. I think that would be the easiest option, is to partner with someone else who does have some skin in the game.
Yeah.
Someone with a lengthy track record that you could, bring in as a partner. When it comes to the articles of formation, at least 20% of your business, and that can just be for the first couple projects. And then once you establish a track record of your own, then you can, do things more independently.
Perfect.
Yeah, I would say that's the hardest part. Is just establishing some experience so that you can get a better interest rate and making sure you have some capital.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Let me touch real quick on something that you mentioned earlier. So when you're looking, you mentioned that you guys look at the rent roll. So for me, I like, as you, I think it already comes out, I'm risk adverse, right? So I look and look and look. So for me, when I'm looking, 1 month's rent roll is not enough for me, right? I want to see trends, right? So I want to see, because 1 month you can just give me anything, right?
Yeah, we want to see the entire year.
Exactly, right. So that's why I value T12s. I value long, at least 6 months. If you give me 4 months of T12, that's good enough, right? I can take a look at it. but I definitely want the expenses for the whole year though. Don't give me T3 expenses. I want all of it. So for you, like, what do you guys look at in terms of rent roll? Like, if I only had 1 month to give, what would that look like?
I've never seen 1 month. We
Okay.
want to see at least 6 months to a year.
Perfect.
That's the only way to really get a realistic view
Gotcha.
of all the expenses and, you know, exactly what's being made on a monthly basis.
Perfect.
I mean, the good thing is the rental market's up right now. It's been up for quite some time. It really depends on the state also. But yeah, we need to see at least 6 months.
Okay, cool. And I know some of our audience may, you know, be at the very beginning of their journey. So I want to maybe roll back a little bit. So can you give us an idea of like the types of programs we're talking about here? Because, you know, this isn't a typical 30-year loan that, you know, you might walk into Wycott or whatever, and then they have somebody on the side who's going to help you, you know, that kind of thing. So
yeah, when it comes to the longer term loans, those are more like small business loans. I do those too, but my specialty is commercial real estate. So I just want everybody to understand when we talk about real estate investing, when it comes to any type of loans, it's always going to be hard money. So the term hard money means short term. A lot of times hard money is privately sourced. So a lot of those funds come from private investors that you're not necessarily going to know who the investor is going to be. A lot of times it's a team of investors, a group of private money investors. So, you know, most of those types of loans, like I said, commercial real estate loans tend to be hard money, shorter terms, higher interest rates, but interest only loans. So you're only going to be paying the interest on those loans for that period, right? And that's how these investors make money. As a broker, of course, my job is to, you know, service my clients, make sure that they're, you know, well educated on the process, they're well aware of where we are in the process. A lot of times, if they're experienced, they already know what their numbers need to look like. But we also have investors that, you know, that we're servicing, right? Because they're in the business of making money. So that's how, you know, you need to view it as a newer investor. You know, it's a business where everybody eats off of a deal. You know, I don't make money unless the deal closes.
Right.
So the numbers really have to make sense.
Gotcha.
Right. It's rare that a real estate investor is not going to make money, especially when it comes to a longer, you know, term project. But it can really determine how much money you make, right? In the beginning, you're not going to make as much. Your first 1 or 2 transactions, just take it as a learning experience. You know, you don't really start to I would say, really capitalize until you've been in the business for a while.
Gotcha. Yeah. So just to stress on that a little bit, my bad. Let me just finish this one. Just to stress on that a little bit. So typically, for your, you know, single residential, most people are used to 30-year loan, you know, fixed, right?
Right.
Which we don't have that in commercial. So in commercial, typically you're looking at, you know, if you're lucky about 10 years, right? And the rate is going to be much higher. And depending on what the scenario may be, it may not be fixed rate either. It might be some balloon here and there and all that kind of stuff. So just to, you know, give people an idea of that, it works a little bit differently, right? So most of the time,
right,
your aim is to get in, perform your business, you know, execute your business plan, and then sell, right? So
right, or refinance,
right? So a little different in terms of that business, and for me, that's what I like, right? I like the ability to go in, execute my business plan, and then I'll walk out of there. Sorry, go ahead, Jerome.
Now, I was just going to kind of piggyback on that, just with your thumb on the pulse. How would you describe kind of market conditions in regards to buyers and sellers, like where do you see things, or where are things now? Where do you see things going in regards to market conditions?
I think market conditions will stabilize. I don't think interest rates will ever be as low as they were 2-3 years ago. I don't think we'll ever see a 3% interest rate again, honestly. I think it's going to stabilize around maybe the 5%,
Okay.
6% rate. On the commercial side, it's always a few points higher. So right now, we're offering 7% all the way up to 12%. It really just depends on the deal and the business. But you know, on the residential side, I think home prices may decrease a little bit. I think that's always going to fluctuate. It really depends on the area. But I think interest rates, I don't think we can afford for interest rates.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a magic ball like anybody else, right? But you know, there's definitely some truth to that. It's funny when we mention, you know, stabilizing to 5%, and I mean, right now that sounds great, right? But one of the deals I literally have a deal that I'm looking at right now, and I think I started looking at it back in January, and initially I had it underwritten for like, I think it was like 3-4%, something like that, right? So it's hilarious that here we are hoping for 5%, right? So the market definitely has changed. Definitely, and you know,
that's the name of the game when it comes to wealth, right?
Yeah.
I encourage people to change your perspective about what it means to be wealthy in this country. What it means to be wealthy is just the amount of assets that you own. You know, and finding a way to invest in those assets when it comes to accumulating cash, right? Never accumulate cash to hold, accumulate cash to invest.
Yeah.
And there's several different avenues for investment purposes. Real estate being one of the best, right? Most lucrative, smartest options. But anything other than that, as far as the dollar, you know, that's going to continue to depreciate as well. So we have to put that money to use.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be family. It can be.
Could be single family. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there.
Exactly.
But you have to worry about the bathroom color though if you go single family. So just a word of warning.
Countertops.
Yeah, not when it comes to and renters, right? Renters are less, you know, as concerned with that as homeowners. But
that's true.
You gotta have somewhere to live.
Yeah,
you gotta have shelter. You know, it's a necessity. So
absolutely. I almost lost my train of thought there. So piggyback a little bit off of what Jerome mentioned. So because the market has shifted, right? Are your loan products now a little bit different from when loan interest rates were a little bit lower, or still about the same?
So your question is, because of the market conditions, some of the changes within the market, have our loan terms changed?
Well, not just the terms, but the kind of products that you were offering before, right? So let's say maybe before you're offering Fannie and Freddie, or this, maybe you were offering 2-year interest only, 3-year. Has any of that changed because of the market shift?
Yeah, I don't necessarily know if it's because of the market shift or if it's just because of like the societal business shift. I don't know. When we used to work with Fannie Mae or the Small Business Administration, it used to be easier.
Okay.
Years ago. Now the length of time is just ridiculous. When it comes to SBA loans, I think maybe because a lot of people are going into business for themselves, I always, tell people who are interested in like a small business loan, if they qualify, to, try to qualify for as many grants as possible. That may be an easier way to go, especially as a newer business owner, because there's a lot of grant money out there. There's more grant money out there now than it was before. But when it comes to these types of loans that used to be offered before, the underwriting restrictions are a lot lengthier. Like, when it comes to especially public loans, the rules tend to be a lot stricter now.
Gotcha.
When it comes to private money, I don't want to say there are definitely rules, but there's a lot more loopholes. There's a lot more flexibility, honestly. If someone has horrible credit, but they have a decent cash flow, then we can make something work.
Gotcha.
Someone doesn't have the length of time in business, but they have a track record in another aspect, right? Say, for instance, they've done fix and flips. They've never done a multifamily, or they want to do completely new construction. They have land, but they don't necessarily have the construction experience. We can make something shake.
Okay.
But when it comes to the more regulated loans, there is a lot less you can do.
Gotcha.
So
Which
that's what I've noticed.
Gotcha.
It's become a lot stricter.
Yeah.
And the length of time has increased. So nowadays, for an SBA loan, it's taking, well, pretty much what we tell our clients, it's at least 4 weeks before we hear something back, but now it can be like 13 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question about the SBA stuff, because I know it's not strictly a multifamily, but I'm always interested in small business and buying small businesses. So one of the things that I always want to understand is, for me to buy a small business, I know that SBA offers, I think it's like a 10% down. I'm not sure if that's still on the table, but if it is, what is your take on, let's say if I wanted to buy, a business from Jerome, and I had a 10% down, but I also needed Jerome to, seller carry, seller finance, let's say 10%, another 10% or something. Like, what is the SBA's take on that? Do you know?
They don't get involved in seller financing.
Okay. So basically I'll have to sort of do that deal, and then
it would affect. Yeah.
Okay.
We just have to negotiate the sales price if that were the case.
Understood. Okay. Cool. Yeah, small business is one of those things that, I'm always advocating for people to sort of get into. Oftentimes we don't look at it just because, typically you don't see yourself as, man, I'm going to buy a whole business. People can see themselves starting a business. I can see myself starting a cleaning business, but they typically don't see themselves as going to buy $1 million business, right?
But yeah, it depends on the type of business. Like, I do have a lot of clients that tend to purchase like restaurants and lounges. Like, if you're in that business, then that tends to be something that people will purchase outright.
I see.
A lounge, if it's making money, those types of businesses tend to be
I stay with
quite lucrative.
Really?
I know. I would too. Yeah.
The risk reward, the insurance, there's a lot going on there.
The management, exactly.
Management, labor on that is crazy. Give me the most boring stuff. Give me plumbing, maybe
dry cleaners are good.
Dry cleaners, yeah, something boring and people don't think about. That's what I want. But
I tend to feel like a lot of people that come to me specifically, or in my wheelhouse, don't want to necessarily deal with banks. Yeah. It's just like dealing with a mortgage lender versus a bank when it comes to, purchasing a house, right?
For sure.
It just tends to be a lot more personable, I'm a phone call or a text away versus dealing with the bank. You never know. You're just, like I said, you're just a number.
Gotcha.
So, go ahead.
Go on, man. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I can see.
Listen, man. When the money's in the house, you can't help it. You gotta jump in, man. So
might have had a part 2, part 3, part 4 on this one.
Yeah, I'm telling you, this is definitely not gonna be the first time here.
All right. So Naseeka, real quick, I know you just been hitting on how personable you are with your clients. And I just want to know, when did that mindset shift where you just wanted to serve the community? Because just a personal anecdote, I had a chance to go to one of her financial literacy classes, which was incredibly dope. I wish I would have woke my son up so he can come and check it out, my teenage son. But I just seen your heart for just making sure people knew how to have a relationship with money. So when did your mindset shift with your relationship with money change, and how did that transform into how do I help our culture?
Wow. I love that question. And don't
Yeah,
worry, you can
man.
bring your son to the next one, July
For sure,
22nd.
for sure. For sure.
So, yes, so this is my passion work. It really is. And everything stems from personal experience. So, as I mentioned, I come from an immigrant family. My family's from Jamaica. And real estate, especially, I mentioned during the workshop that real estate is my first love, right? I've been in real estate for 10 years. That being because that was how my family was able to acquire wealth. Now I come from, a minimally educated family. My dad was a carpenter, and growing
By the
up,
way, not to cut you off, I love anyone who's in trade. So plumbers, for me,
yes,
my heart bleeds a little bit when I hear that, that field is sort of dying out a little bit because, new people are not getting in. But it's a great place to be. If you're in plumbing, HVAC, electrical.
welding.
Yes, well done.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to bring the trade schools back, honestly.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that, unemployment rate would be lower. Everybody's pushing college. It's not for everybody, but yes,
No, thank
my
you.
dad,
Yeah.
yes, very, very true. So actually, most of the men in my family are tradesmen. So my dad left the islands when he was, a young man, learned a trade, made his way to New York, in the 70s. Now, the 70s and 80s, Brooklyn was
Mm-hmm.
not the place to be. So, that was just the way it was. And he had enough gumption at the time being a carpenter and just kind of being in that field to, kind of purchase some real estate at that time. But, because of the small mentality of our people, unfortunately, he didn't get a lot of support. But, he went ahead and did it. And honestly, that's one of the reasons why, he's doing as well as he is nowadays. Not only did he purchase in Brooklyn, he purchased in Crown Heights. Now, Crown Heights is a Hasidic Jewish community now, like predominantly Hasidic Jewish. My dad is like one of the only Black men on the street. Now, my dad is older. He's in the 70s now, retired. But just growing up, watching him, he would always be working on his projects on the weekend. So I watched him work 7 days a week most of my life. He had his regular job, which was like a union job as a carpenter. And then he had his like side hustle fixing up houses on the weekend. And I didn't know anything about that, to be honest, growing up. But now, he has financial stability because of that. Also, my grandmother, I would say it's one of the cultural norms within our community, especially for immigrants to come, or maybe it was just during that time frame, but it was always like a goal to own your own home, right? I wouldn't say become a real estate investor. That's like a step beyond that. But owning your own home, at least, especially in a place like New York, where it's much different than it is here in Texas. Most people in Texas live in their home for 5 years and then they either upgrade, downgrade, they move, whatever. In a place like New York, it's so scarce for real estate. It's a smaller state and a lot more populated. Most people that purchase their home, they live there their entire lives, and they either down or whatever. So the same thing with my grandmother, and my mother's side, my mother's side, I would say, grew up in the bushes. So again, just coming from where we came from, and I don't want to get into all the details, but from nothing, you know what I mean? And you know, my people, we have a lot of pride, but the truth is, you know, most of us don't come from much, you know, as far as just wealth and ownership. So real estate was how my family specifically was able to acquire wealth. And when my grandmother passed away in 2019, she was able to leave my children, I have two children, and myself each an inheritance. It's the first time I've ever experienced that, but it changed my whole life. So that's when I really started to get serious about my finances, was 2019.
Gotcha.
And to learn about investments, how to grow this money. I own my own house, but at the same time, it was just like, it brought it to another level because, you know, an inheritance was money that I hadn't worked for, you know, and that's how, for me, I honor my grandmother because, you know, she worked really hard for that money, honestly, but she just had the foresight and the discipline to want to, you know, for her, that was her great grandchildren. She left me some money, which was, you know, her grandchild, and then her great grandchildren, which is, and you know what I mean? Just like an amazing accomplishment.
That's
so
spectacular. Yeah.
exactly.
I don't want to go past that, brush past that, because
No.
That's when everything changed for me.
Right. You know, the trope is we leave bad credit and creditors.
Exactly.
That's a beautiful thing. And were you just always cognizant of your dad and your grandmother's grind growing up? It was something you, oh, wow, okay.
Very much so, you know, because I was the first one to be born in America. So I was it was always instilled in me that I needed to do something with my life because I, you know, received an opportunity that most of my family members did not. You know what I mean? I have cousins who really had to grind to earn their citizenship because, you know, the immigration laws have become a lot stricter over the years. Now, when my dad migrated in the 70s, it was much easier to become a citizen, right? The rules weren't as strict. I think you just had to be like a resident for 5 years and pay taxes and that sort of thing. But over the years, there's been such an influx in immigrants, it's much harder. So my cousins, you know, I've watched them, you know, be nannies for, you know, affluent people, you know, kind of take some, let's say, degrading jobs in order to, you know, scrape together and eventually, you know, gain their citizenship over, you know, 10, 15 years.
For sure.
And, you know, some of my family members are still on that grind. So to be a natural born citizen, you know, in my family was a privilege. So that was instilled in me, honestly. It wasn't until I left New York, because even though I grew up in New York, which of course is a state, I grew up in a very Caribbean community, Flatbush, Crown Heights, Brooklyn. So most of my peers were also of Caribbean descent. But, you know, joining the Navy and then expanding beyond that kind of even showed me further, like, just how much opportunity there is here. You know, I mean, although we definitely have our challenges that we have to face, the opportunity for me versus any other country, there's no other country that you can, you know, capitalize like you can in the US, right? So my dad used to always tell me, like, when you learn your position in the game, then you have a position of power, right? So when you understand, like, what your position is, right? Whether it be, what's the word I'm looking for? Whether it be a position of disadvantage, right? Being aware of that can help you get to where you want to be, right? If you understand that, yes, I'm probably going to have to work harder than everybody else. Yes, I'm probably going to have to, you know what I'm saying? Make larger sacrifices, but it's still attainable when you think about it, right? When you think about the roadmap to success. But of course, we don't necessarily know what the journey is gonna include, but it's just having that tenacity. So that tenacity, I definitely feel like comes from my roots and growing up in New York.
I want to sort of highlight something that you said earlier, and you know, Jerome touched on it, and it's kind of story that, you know, Black folks in general just always leave, you know, their kin with debt and nothing of value. You know, one of the reasons why we really enjoy this podcast is sort of not just demystify the idea of you know, investing in apartments, but also bring some knowledge about, you know, our culture in general. And in reality, it's not like that, right? You know, yeah, some people do that, but that's not the bulk of the our population, right? Our population, we struggle a lot, but our aim is always to leave our children in a better place than we found it, right? So that's always been the aim. And you know, fortunately, once in a while that doesn't really materialize. But for you, for instance, we can see that that's not the case, and the impact that has is monumental. It is one of those things when people talk generational wealth. That's really the true definition, right? For a grandmother to leave great grandchildren, right, to be in a better position that she found this world to be, right? That's true generational wealth, and just a little bit of it is a lot, because it's money earned, not necessarily by the grandchild, but money hard earned by the great grandmother, and then those carry a lot of weight.
I say you gotta salute grandma, man.
Yeah, man,
Oh yeah.
that's what we are here for, right? I mean, we putting this stuff together not because we want to live on the hog and be sitting in some king's throne, because at the end of the day, when you do go, it is just going to be you. It's going to go out the same way you came in, but you can make your child, your children, your great children, and so on and so forth. You can leave in a better state, right?
Thanks.
So, and that's what we're here for.
All of our goals.
That's
And
right.
yeah, back to Jerome's point, it's just like, it's all about the mindset. You know, we're in prime position now to make substantial changes financially because most of us have the resources now, right? Especially Black women, we're among the most educated, right? We may not be earning as much as our white female counterparts, but
Mhm.
we're still in a great position to make change.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to focus on. Just our mental state when it comes to our relationship with money and how we empower ourselves.
Gotcha.
For sure.
Before we leave, sorry, go
One
ahead.
more
Go on.
I'm like getting all this game, but another thing I noticed with your event is that you partnered with some heavy hitters, to say the least. So not so much how did you do it, but what do you think the skill is? Like, what skill is that's needed to partner with individuals to help you achieve your goals? Because you mentioned for newbies to partner with individuals. So what is the skill that's needed
Okay.
for partnerships?
Just having a spirit of collaboration, honestly, and relationship building. So I'm really great at networking. That's how you and I met, right?
Mhm.
I just love to approach people, shake hands, let them know a little bit about me, and just, you know, seeing if we could either break bread together, you know, or if we can learn from one another.
Gotcha.
When it comes to business, it's all about your relationships. Your network is your net worth.
Mhm.
Plain and simple. It's all about your relationships. And that's another thing culturally I feel like we need to grow within, right? Being able to collaborate, help one another, know that, you know, there's always something that we can impart to someone else. And of course, we're lifelong learners. So, you know, I've had the privilege to be in some really affluent environments in some of my previous positions. And what I've noticed is they really do have a spirit of collaboration, honestly. There's no such thing as a one-man show. You know what I mean? Like when you look at someone that's really successful, there's pretty much, you know,
There's someone always behind that story.
exactly,
Yep.
exactly. And all of their friends, people in their circle, they're on that same path.
Absolutely.
So, you know, when it came to collaborating with Comerica, it was just because honestly, they're, you know, like you said, heavy hitters, they're a big corporation. And a lot of corporations have money to give back to the community. They have to. That's a part of how they receive a lot of tax breaks. They have to give back, right? So there's lots of money, and that's why I even hit on grants, because that's where a lot of grant money comes from.
Gotcha.
Large corporations have to give back a portion of their proceeds. But a lot of people don't know that, and then a lot of people don't know how to ask.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to when this ends, I'm going to be hitting you up and getting some of those grants and taking it to you know. Listen, let me. I'm going to switch gears real quick and ask you. You know, I know how the struggles, right? I know when you go to close this, you know, day one, everything is looking good, and then all of a sudden, this person didn't show up, that thing didn't come, their stamp didn't work, whatever, right? Like something always comes up. So tell us tell us a success story where things seemed like they were going to fall apart and you just came through.
Man, honestly, when it comes to commercial transactions, the writing's pretty much on the wall. Like, I will say it. There hasn't been a case where everything looks like it was gonna fall apart and it didn't. Honestly, because if you know the paperwork's not in order, then there's really nothing you can do about it. You know what I mean? When it comes to assets, cash, when we talk about collateral, right? Someone's trying to use the land that they own as collateral. If they're trying to use, you know, life insurance as collateral, you know, we have to have proof of all that. So what I've noticed quite often is that people definitely tend to talk a good game, right? But when it comes to actually providing proof, that's another thing.
Interesting.
So, you know, in the very beginning stages, I would say would be the most fragile when it comes to like establishing that relationship. That's why having a good rapport with clients is so important, because they have to be comfortable enough to let you in their lives, let you in their business, let you in the intricate details of their organization, right? Because just because somebody's making great money in their business doesn't mean that they have everything together. Most cases, that's not the case. You know what I mean? Usually, you know, people who, especially entrepreneurs don't tend to be the most organized. You know, when I'm dealing with bigger businesses, yeah, it's a lot easier because they already have people in place that can, you know, make sure that their files are in order. But especially with newer businesses, I expect for them to not have everything in order. And I like to be able to help them to get things into place. And I feel like that's one of the things that being a woman in this business has benefited me, because I just do have a softer approach when it comes to certain, you know what I mean? Like I know how to talk, and you know, most of my clients are men. So just, you know, how to talk to get the ball rolling, to get everything in place. Now, once we have all the paperwork, it tends to be, you know, kind of like a really good flow after that.
Gotcha.
Once we're able to verify, you know, proof of income, proof of funds, you know, everything, and I'm able to, you know, get with the specific states to confirm, you know, that business is current standing. But just getting that person or that business owner to let me in the beginning so that we can get everything in order, I would say would be that would be the hardest.
It's hard as
and again, it has everything to do with the mindset, right? People tend to get very anxious when it comes to large loans. People tend to get very anxious when it comes to, you know, letting people look at their bank statements and
that
that would be, I would say, the biggest hump.
Gotcha.
But once we get to the underwriting phase, it's just a matter of whether or not we're going to be able to come to terms.
Gotcha.
Okay.
And I wanted to,
once we're in underwriting, we're pretty much good, but it doesn't mean that investor is going to accept the terms that we offer.
Gotcha. I wanted to like stress that because it goes back to what you said in the beginning about residential versus commercial. You know, the whole idea about me being sort of hyperbolic about, you know, the stamp didn't work, this didn't work. With commercial, a lot of that stuff is not there, right? A lot of these emotional, oh my God, we're not gonna make it.
Right,
You know, like that stuff.
I don't have a place to live. Right,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. The numbers they'll work from the beginning, they're not gonna work in the end. It's just
right.
Yeah.
We don't have to do the therapy sessions as much.
You mentioned something. I know we like way over, so I'm gonna make this one real short.
8 o'clock already?
Man, I'm
Wow,
telling you,
flew
time
by.
flies when you're having fun, as they say.
Right.
So life insurance as collateral. I didn't know that. What else
Yeah,
can
you
you
can
put
use
on
cash
collateral?
value life insurance as collateral.
Okay,
Exactly.
cash
Cash
value.
value
Okay.
life insurance. That's another business that I'm in, actually. I'm a certified life insurance agent. Investing in your life insurance is very, I would say it's a very wise choice, because you avoid a lot of the tax fees. It's
Gotcha.
tax-free money, pretty much.
Yeah,
It's a
we're
good
definitely,
way to hide money too. A lot of wealthy people hide money in their life insurance.
yeah, we definitely got to talk, because for the past few weeks, I've been watching videos on, broker businesses and stuff like that. I'm really curious to dig in about the
Send you some
business
more information.
ecosystem.
Yeah, I have a lot of
Yeah.
information I can send you on that.
All right, really appreciate it. Let's,
Okay.
Jerome, you got any other questions before we let it go? No, the
No,
money.
Take Ownership Podcast. I like that
That's
name.
That's
Take
right.
Ownership.
that's going to be the last question, Naseeka. What do you take ownership of?
I take
Could be
ownership
anything.
of my life.
Yeah.
Take
Like that.
full ownership and accountability of my life. Who I am, as a woman, my happiness. Definitely take full ownership of, my happiness, my contentness or contentment within my life. And that's all I can take ownership for. I can't take ownership for anybody else. I had to learn that the hard way.
That's so true, man. That's so true.
Not even my children. Like, my children are 19 and 17 years old now, and I'm just like, yep, you're
They
right.
in that phase. I'm lucky. I still got me young right now.
Enjoy it. Enjoy every day.
Yeah, that's what
But
they
they're gonna
say.
morph into their own people with their own minds, right? And that's what we want. But
Absolutely.
the only, person you can take ownership of is you, Derick, and you, Jerome. So
That's right.
yeah.
Cool. Appreciate
Listen,
that.
man. Really appreciate you coming through. Listen, tell the folks they can get in touch with you.
You can just Google me, Naseeka Cox.
I like
You can
that.
contact
Okay.
me on any social media platform, Facebook, Instagram. I'm not really on TikTok. I need to get on TikTok more, but TikTok's like a vacuum. It's dangerous getting on there. You'll be on there for a whole hour before you even notice.
Yeah, see, I haven't been sucked in yet. I don't have the app. I don't want to go in there.
But apparently it's one of the, actually probably the only social media platform where you can still just blow up. Like the algorithm could just
It seems like it. Yeah. Yeah. I hear about people, they get on there, they get a product, and next thing you know, they got like 20 million orders from their product that is probably the same product they made in the second corner around China somewhere. It's just it's crazy.
You gotta be ready for that growth before you get on TikTok.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I frequent LinkedIn. I'm always on LinkedIn.
Okay.
I make a lot of good connections on LinkedIn. So yeah, social media, you can email me, naseeka.cox@gmail.com. naseeka.wealthbuilder@gmail.com. But yeah, just Google me, hit me up on social media.
Absolutely.
As a little stunt.
I'll drop all those on in the link, and also down below when you watch this. Jerome, what about you, man? How can the folks get in touch with you? That extra long URL.
In the world, longest in the world, trying to break the record. averyivorycapital.durable.co. Hit us up. Just bookmark it.
There you go. Yeah, and that's for me, man. You can just hit me up, hello@carboncapital.com. You can also just go to the website at carboncapital.com. Also going to be dropped in the description. Naseeka, listen, it's hard letting you go, so we definitely gonna have to come back. When the money is in the building, we gotta have, we gotta dig in and get all the money. So I really appreciate you coming through. Really, thank you for coming through.
Of course. Thank you guys having me. This was fun.
For sure, it was.
This was fun.
It's fun education. That's what we're here for, man.